Arthur Blackwood had once been a special operations commander. During the years of war, he learned a brutal truth. Hesitate for a single breath, and someone would never make it back. 10 years ago, Arthur left the military. No ceremony, no farewell. Only the nightmares followed him home, night after night, refusing to let go. At 60, with everything that remained of his pension, Arthur bought Stonehaven, an old Gothic mansion standing alone in the frozen northern mountains. Not because it was beautiful, but because he believed a place cold enough, isolated enough, might finally put his memories to sleep. The realtor told him Stonehaven had been abandoned for nearly 7 years. No electricity, no residents. No one had ever stayed through a full winter night. Arthur liked that. When he returned weeks later with supplies, snow had buried the road leading up to the mansion. Stonehaven stood there, massive, ancient, like a stone tomb carved into the mountains. Then Arthur saw smoke, a thin, steady ribbon rising from the main chimney. He stopped the car. His heartbeat slowed, not from fear, but because an old instinct had awakened. The fireplace didn't work. He had inspected it himself. Arthur stepped out, scanning the grounds. The snow near his car was untouched, but closer to the porch, there were footprints, 2 kinds, one human and one belonging to a large dog. He didn't draw his weapon, but his aging hand rested lightly against the grip beneath his coat. Stonehaven was no longer empty.
Arthur entered the mansion in absolute silence. Oil paintings lined the hallway, their eyes watching him through decades of dust. The air smelled of burned wood and of people. Behind the massive bookshelf in the library, a hidden structure once designed as a safe room, he saw them. A young woman, barely 20. Her clothes were torn and worn, her face pale from the cold. She was holding a German shepherd, wounded in the hind leg. The dog growled low, tense and alert, but it did not attack. Arthur lowered himself, hands raised, not in surrender, but with the calm of a man long familiar with fear. "I'm the new owner of this place," he said quietly, "and
Please,
I'm not
Arthur,
here to hurt anyone."
Don't call the police. I'm
The
begging
girl's
you.
voice trembled. "Please don't call the police. We'll leave. We just need tonight." Arthur studied the room. The fireplace had been carefully built. The floor had been swept clean. These were not intruders. They were survivors.
You're survivors,
The girl's
not
name
intruders.
was Clara.
Thank God you're
Her
here.
father, a reclusive billionaire and the former owner of Stonehaven, had died in a car accident months earlier. But it wasn't an accident. Asset theft and large-scale illegal operations carried out by his closest associates. Before he died, he managed to hide the evidence and attach it to the dog's collar, Rex. Stonehaven was the only place with a secure room the hunters didn't know existed. Arthur understood immediately. He had seen deaths like this before. They were always described with very clean words.
The wind rose just before midnight. Not the quiet mountain wind, but a howling spiral that hurled snow against Stonehaven's stone walls, as if trying to grind time itself away. The mansion trembled slowly, its old lead-framed windows shivering in their frames. Arthur was checking the ground floor locks when Rex froze. No barking, no growling, just stillness, ears upright, body drawn tight as a bowstring. Arthur turned instantly. Rex was facing the iron gate. Then, through the blizzard, a sound reached him, faint but unmistakable to a man who had survived war. Engines, not one, several. Arthur extinguished the fireplace in a single motion. The grand hall fell into darkness, lit only by dying embers glowing red like coals. He turned to Clara, his voice barely louder than the wind. "The library. Lock the door. Open it for no one but me." Clara went pale. Rex stepped in front of her automatically. Arthur said nothing more. He didn't need to.
3 black SUVs stopped at Stonehaven's gate. No headlights, no signals. Figures in winter tactical gear fanned out with precision, not petty thieves.
Arthur watched from the second-floor balcony, his body blending into the shadows cast by Gothic stone statues. The wind snapped his wool coat, revealing a frame lean but hardened like cooled steel. They're young, he thought, and they trust weapons more than experience. A faint smile crossed his face, the first in many years. The west service door was forced open. The moment the first intruder stepped into the long corridor, the first trap was triggered. An antique bronze chandelier, dozens of kilograms of solid metal, collapsed from the ceiling. Bones snapped. A scream died halfway. Before the second man could react, Rex burst from the darkness. Not wild, not chaotic. A low leap, a locked wrist, jaws clamped at the precise angle. Gunfire cracked, harsh and obscene in the ancient stone hall. The bullet struck the wall, exactly where Arthur had been standing, 1 second earlier. Arthur had already moved. He appeared behind the shooter and drove the man's own weapon into the base of his skull. The body hit the floor, unconscious before a sound could escape.
The remaining men began to panic. They couldn't see Arthur, only footsteps on the stairs, in the corridors, above them. Then they saw him. Arthur stood on the second-floor balcony, half his scarred face swallowed by shadow. Firelight behind him turned his silhouette into something vast, wavering across the stone walls. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He spoke one sentence, slow, cold as falling snow. You came to the wrong house. One man turned to flee. He slipped on ice-covered steps and never stood again.
12 minutes later, Stonehaven was silent once more. Only the wind remained, and Rex's steady breathing. Arthur stood in the grand hall, his hands trembling, not from fear, but because his aging body had remembered who it once was. He walked up to the library. Clara opened the door. Her eyes were red, but her gaze was steady. "It's over," Arthur said. "They won't be coming back." Outside, snow continued to fall, quietly burying the traces of a failed hunt.
Spring came late to the northern mountains. The last snow melted in reluctant patches across the valley, revealing dark earth beneath, and with it, the quiet proof that life had endured. Arthur Blackwood stood on the porch of Stonehaven. The mansion no longer felt like a tomb. Its roof had been repaired. The windows no longer rattled in the wind. The sharp cold that once carried only silence now brought faint sounds of voices and footsteps from the gravel road below, where trucks and volunteers came and went. Above the entrance, a wooden sign had been mounted. Clara had chosen the name herself. She stepped out beside Arthur, the spring breeze tugging gently at her hair. It was longer now, touched with light, no longer hiding her face. She wore a simple jacket, sleeves rolled up, her hands marked with the honest wear of work. "They finished setting up the training rooms today," she said softly. "Veterans from 2 counties over came to help. One of them brought his son. He said he wanted the boy to see what healing looks like." Arthur nodded, his eyes resting on the mountains beyond the valley. "It's a good thing you're building here," he said. Clara smiled faintly. "We're building it." Inside, Stonehaven had changed completely. Where broken beams once hung like exposed ribs, sunlight now poured through wide windows. The main hall held long tables, shelves of supplies, books, blankets, and tools. On one wall hung a framed photograph of Clara's father. Below it, a simple plaque read, "For those who spoke the truth when silence was safer." Rex moved through the halls with calm authority. He wore a dark blue harness now, marked Service Dog, PTSD Support. His muzzle was broader, his movements slower, but his eyes were gentle and alert. When children entered the building, his posture softened immediately, tail wagging, ears lifting, his presence steady and warm. Arthur watched as Rex greeted a man in his 40s, his military jacket zipped to the throat, his face drawn tight with exhaustion.
The man hesitated at the doorway, then knelt slowly, letting the dog sniff his hand. Rex licked his fingers once. Something in the man's shoulders loosened. "That's Sergeant Lewis," Clara whispered. "Afghanistan. Lost his entire unit to an IED. He hasn't spoken much in years. But with Rex, he doesn't have to." Arthur said nothing. His throat tightened.
After the trials and settlements, Clara used part of the compensation to reclaim her father's old estate, but instead of moving into it, she transformed it into this place, a refuge. Arthur, with his monthly VA disability checks and a resolve forged long before this life, became her silent partner. He handled maintenance, logistics, and training programs. More than that, he became a bridge. He reached out to veteran networks across the country, convincing men and women like himself that healing didn't mean forgetting, it meant building. When a small local newspaper ran a story about Stonehaven, the response spread far beyond the valley. Letters arrived from Colorado, Ohio, Maine, communities asking how to create places like this. They began calling them quiet havens, places where broken people could mend through purpose, labor, and compassion.
One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the valley in gold, Arthur stood by the porch rail while Clara locked the front doors. The air smelled of pine and thawing earth. "Your father would have liked this," Arthur said. Clara smiled softly. "He used to say a house isn't where you live," she replied. "It's where others are welcome." Arthur turned toward the horizon, the fading light reflected in his eyes. "And sometimes," he said quietly, "the lost ones are the first to find the way home." They stood there in silence. Not the heavy silence Arthur had once sought, but a living one. Rex lay near the steps, his head resting on his paws, watching the sky fade from gold to silver. Behind them, laughter echoed from inside Stonehaven. People who had once been broken, now building again. The mansion stood firm, its walls no longer hiding secrets, but sheltering hope. And as the last light disappeared beyond the mountains, 3 lives, once shattered by loss, had become the foundation of something larger, something whole. Sometimes the greatest miracles don't arrive as thunder or fire from the sky. They come quietly, in the shape of a wounded soldier learning how to smile again, a daughter rebuilding her father's dream, or a loyal dog who never stopped believing in the goodness of people. Maybe that's how God works, not through grand gestures, but through ordinary hands willing to choose kindness, through shared warmth, rebuild homes, and second chances we never thought we deserved.